I had the encounter with probably the biggest deer I probably ever will in my life Saturday, and ethical, moral dilemma of, long and short of it is, got pictures of this deer last year, showed up. I know where his home range is. It's very far away, multiple miles away, and he didn't show up, and didn't show up in that window. He just didn't show up during the window he did last year, but he showed up literally Saturday on a cell camera during the Illinois shotgun season. Re-strategized and had him at 150 yards away on property I couldn't shoot. Didn't have permission, and maybe some listening is like, well, you probably didn't feel confident in your shot or this, that, the other. No, the gun's capable of that. The deer was relaxed. I had plenty of time to make a conscious decision, and anyone says that they wouldn't shoot a 200-inch deer if it was on the neighbors, I can wholeheartedly say that. And I'm not saying it was an easy decision or I feel like I made the right decision, to be completely honest, but I want to do it the right way. So story's not over. Doing the big buck profiles, about every one of them has some sort of controversy or like some sort of legend. You look at a lot of these other deer, there's a level of controversy, and this was in my head too. It's like, I don't want any level of controversy. I want everyone to say, when they say Jake Hofer, the guy that does it right and is honest. And so that's really what it boiled down to. You have one reputation, that's it.
Lights, camera,
follow the trail.
ready to shoot.
If you know where a deer's bedding and you know where he's eating, that deer should be dead.
Camera!
If you're passive on a deer, what you're doing is you're teaching them.
I've got 30 bucks in the Michigan record book. Everyone but one has had at least one previous wound on his body. Some had as many as 4.
Trail Cam Radio from the guys at Exodus.
All right, in studio, Trail Cam Radio, coming to you. It is November, the 19th. A lot of stuff shaking, a lot of stuff happening. November has treated the Exodus crew pretty damn good over the last 9 days. I'll call it the last 9 days. So the last week and a half has been one to remember, that's for sure. Now we get into, let's get into some good stuff. We want to share some harvest stories, basically. From Cameron, from Jase, from Jake. You guys heard all my story last week. Had a dedicated episode for that, but want to get you guys on here and ask some questions, because I've been gone for 9 days, 10 days, 11 days, 12 days, something like that, and I don't even know the full story yet. So I have questions, and I want to hear the story, man. I'm excited for you guys. So Cameron, why don't you kick things off for us?
All right. So I had a good November. I had a pretty good stretch of action. November, I want to say 4th. November 3rd. I was hunting property down south a little bit, and I was on the ground and like straight my style hunting, having a good time. And I got a cell camera picture of a deer that morning. I was like, that's a deer I'd probably shoot. I need to go down there and hunt. So I went down there and rattled antlers a little bit. Deer comes walking down the trail. I instantly see his frame, like I'm going to shoot that deer. And I haven't talked about this like publicly, but a deer walks down this trail. He's 10 yards away from me on the ground, raking a tree. He's all mad. And I did listen to your rut hunting mindset thing, and I am 100% a guilty offender on getting overly excited.
Yeah.
And I don't do well at channeling that. I feel like I black out in these scenarios, and I just get so excited. It's like I worked so damn hard for this opportunity, and here it is. Don't mess it up. That deer walks into 4 yards. I draw back, shoot him, and I hit low and back. Never recovered the deer. I backed out immediately. I knew the shot was bad. I grabbed my arrow because it's 4 yards away. I backed out immediately. I knew it was bad. The arrow had like just fat. It didn't smell like guts. It actually smelled like tarsal gland. He was quartering 2, so maybe the exit hit his back leg or something. I backed out immediately, went back the next day, and looked for 5-6 hours, got permission on the neighbor's property, hands and knees through cornfields looking for blood, and I never recovered the deer. And yes, I hate to see that happen, but I guess it happens.
Yeah.
Just shot too low, didn't compensate for being that close.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I'm driving home that day and I call you and I'm like, do you believe in everything happening for a reason? And I'm on my way home and I get a picture of the biggest deer I've ever had on camera.
It was a giant.
A giant deer. So I went from like super low, wounding a deer, not recovering it, to like immediately, oh my God, I have the biggest deer I've ever been able to hunt on camera right now. I'm 30 minutes away from there. I get in there. I hunted that property a couple times, November 4th, 5th, 6th. He was on camera the 4th, and he didn't return. But I knew historically that another property that I have access to always picked up around the 7th through like the 14th. There was always pretty good action in there. And I got that heads up decoy, and I'm having a blast with that thing. I was like, I'm going to go in there and set up on the ground. There's like some little young pine trees. I was like, I'm just going to hide in those pine trees, get set up on the ground, rattle the antlers a little bit, and see if I can pull something out of this known doe bedding area, set up downwind of it. That was November 7th. And I'm sitting on the ground, and I have a 4-point come in. And the way he was coming in, he was going behind me, and I wasn't going to be able to shoot him. I grunted. He saw the decoy. I just wanted to see his reaction to that decoy. And he came around, and I could have shot him a couple times. And so he runs off, and then 20 minutes before light, I'm sitting, I have these pine trees behind me, and like I said, that doe bedding area is in front of me, and I'm downwind of it, and I look to my left, like over my left shoulder, and there's a deer walking down this trail, and it's the same trail that 4-point was heading on before I grunted, and I looked, and immediately I was like, that's a shooter, and I was like, what do I do, because he's behind me, and I can't shoot through this tree. And I was going to grunt, but I'm 8 yards, 10 yards from him. I can't grunt at this thing.
Right.
I don't know how he didn't see the decoy. But anyway, I turn around, and I'm like looking at him. And he was going to keep going, and he was going to get my wind, but I was just going to try to shoot him before he did. And I went to turn and draw, and he looked and immediately whipped his head. He looked at me for like a second and knew something was up, and he bounded off. Before dark closed, another small deer, 6-point, was coming down that exact same trail. So in my head, I'm like, I was just off by 10 yards with my setup.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be on the other side of that trail, downwind of that trail. And I wanted to hunt on the ground, but I couldn't. There was no way I could set up with that on the ground. So I went in the next morning, November 8th, at gray light, and hung a set that morning. I had a pretty decent hunt, but I didn't see a whole lot. I did see a buck chasing off a smaller buck. Both bucks weren't shooters, but there was some action. He worked a scrape. I was like, okay, I need to give this a rest for this evening. Also, that evening that I had that encounter, 6 dirt bikes came in and drove through. And this property is a property where like 4-wheeler traffic and dirt bike traffic is a pain in the ass.
It's a real problem there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But every time I don't see 4-wheelers or a dirt bike, I have an opportunity at a deer that I would shoot. It's almost like if they're not there, the deer are there, or the deer are moving. So it's a risk that I take sometimes. But anyway, I was like in there a lot, so I decided to take a break from that. November 9th in the morning, I didn't hunt. I was feeling a little, not like, just I needed a break, you know,
Sure.
when you're going that hard. I needed a little recovery morning. It was going to be super foggy that morning. I was like, if I take any morning off, I'm going to take this morning off. 7:30 in the morning, cell camera goes off, shooter buck on that trail where I had a lift 2 there the previous year on video mode. And like I said, from the 7th, actually all the way through November to November 30th, I had good bucks in there. November 9th, 7:30 in the morning, shooter buck on that trail. I'm like, okay, it's time. So the next morning I go in because I knew evenings were more likely to get 4-wheeler traffic.
Sure.
It was a Sunday night or
It was a Wednesday. The 10th was a Wednesday, I
okay,
think.
so Tuesday night it was kind of warm. It was warming up. Wednesday it was like 60. The day I shot the deer was like 64 degrees, 60 some degrees. It was warming up Tuesday night. It's like if there's going to be people riding, it's going to be tonight. So I didn't hunt there in the evening. I actually went and hunted where that giant deer was. Didn't see him. November 10th in the morning, I left that set hung downwind of that trail. Had the same wind again. It was a southwest wind, and that doe bedding area was like to the north, and I was like kind of slicing the pie a little bit. And if they walk down that trail, actually, no, hold on, let me back up. The wind switched, and that's why I went back. It was a north wind, and with the north wind, it was kind of blowing in my face. And I figured if anything were to cruise that pine area, they would need a north wind to get downwind of that. And I thought it's
Downwind of the doe bedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the morning, those deer are feeding out in that field that you and I hunted,
Mm-hmm.
and I figured they'd be coming out from that field across the creek into that bedding area. So I'm sitting there. It's north wind. I get in. It's kind of chilly in the morning, 40s, and it's so foggy, like so foggy. I can only see 30 yards, and I'm sitting there. I don't see any deer. I can't see out in that field. It's too foggy. And it was like 8:10. I remember I was like, just sit here until 8:30. Just like, don't go home. Just sit here until 8:30 and see what happens. Fog's still rolling in. At 8:20, I hear 2 deer behind me, like crashing directly downwind of me. Directly. I'm thinking, mother, like they got me, you know? They're running at me, coming directly downwind of me, at me. And the first deer is a 10-point, and he's like 130-inch 10-point. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to shoot that deer. But in the back of my head, I'm thinking, like, why is the buck in front? If this is a buck chasing a doe, why is the buck the first deer I'm seeing? Where's the doe at?
Yeah.
And I'm like looking, and I draw back because I'm getting ready to shoot this deer, and he won't stop. And I'm like yelling, like, bat, bat, like trying to get him to stop, and he's just running. And right behind him, directly underneath my stand, I see this big framed 8-point. I'm like, I hear grunting, you know. I'm like, that's why he's running. And that deer ran like straight directly underneath me, and I'm in my saddle on the back side of the tree, and he runs directly out in front of me. And I'm like, hey! And I just yelled like as loud as I could. I was at full draw the whole time because I was going to shoot that other deer. And that deer stopped with his ass to me, and then kind of like moved his head to look back. And he like quartered away like slightly, like almost facing away from me.
Uh-huh.
But he gave me enough quartering away that I put it like right behind his back leg, or right in front of his back leg, and like center punched him. Came right out his chest, like blew through everything.
Dude, the photos you sent like shortly after you killed him looked like a massacre.
Dude, it was insane. I was in my stand, and I called my dad, and I told my dad I hit him forward. I said he was quartered away, and I hit him forward, but that was the exit. I saw the arrow come out, and I was like, I don't know. I might have hit him a little bit forward. He was quartered away really hard. And then as I was talking to him on the phone, I like was glassing, and I saw my arrow, and it was just like the fletchings were just like bright red, like just painted. And I'm like glassing around. There is blood everywhere at the impact. And I was like, that deer is dead. 100%. Like, I hit everything. And I got down, grabbed the arrow, and took my set down, and like wasn't a very hard blood trail to follow. I walked. There's blood all over trees. Like, it was bad. He came and helped me.
Yeah, it was pretty. I mean, I don't think you could have made a better shot with that quartering shot. I mean, you hit everything, and the blood trail was pretty ridiculous. There's blood, like you said, it splattered on trees, and just, yeah, it was pretty.
It was insane.
It was intense.
And the best part about it is I didn't go through his stomach.
Yeah.
Oh, you hit just
forward. Just
of it.
forward of his stomach.
Yeah.
Just like took both lungs out, right above his heart, and he was dead in 50, 60 yards on his feet. He hit like a hill and rolled down the hill. And, I actually found a shed that year, like right where he died. So
How high were you? Like, how high and how steep was that shot? Or was it?
Probably 14 feet, 10, 11, or probably 12, 14 feet. There was a bunch of, I was in a poplar. There was a bunch of leaves still in the trees, and I couldn't get too high because all the other trees weren't high. And if I got any higher, it'd be skylined. I had a major highway right behind me.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the highway. You can see the cars going by. So if I got above that cover line, I would have been skylined.
Sure.
It wouldn't have mattered.
Well, no, I'm thinking of the shot, the way that arrow hit and went through.
Yeah.
Like, if you would have been
Oh yeah.
25 feet or 20 some feet in a tree, like I don't think you would
I
have
would've
gotten
loved
that
the
same. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it couldn't have played out any better. I got really lucky that they were just. He was mad that he was there. He had to have been on a doe.
Mm-hmm.
Like he
Yeah,
had to
it's
be,
probably
like, running
chasing
him
satellite
off.
bucks off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was chasing that buck off directly downwind of me. Luckily, he stopped. The other deer didn't stop. Like, I just got really lucky. But
Were the thermals rising?
yeah, it was morning time,
Yep.
so thermals were going up. I had a pretty steady. It was like a pretty steady wind, and the way they would have came from, I feel like they would have got me because they were above me. That it's like a hill that comes down into a creek bottom, and then it goes out into a flat, and they came from above me down, and like it was a 10-second hunt. Like
Yeah.
I saw 2 deer that day. It was the only 2 deer I saw, and I was drawn back the entire time. I didn't even know what, like, I have no idea what deer this is. I just saw a good frame, and I thought it was an 8-point. He turned out to be a 7-point. He broke his brow tine off, but when I shot him, that was the first deer ever I've shot with a bow that I instantly celebrated. I instantly knew it was a great shot. I instantly knew I got a pass through. The instant gratification was like, you did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
all my other shots before were like my arrow broke off, or I knew I hit him back. Like I never was like, I'm gonna recover that deer. I knew for a fact that thing was smoked. So it was pretty cool. And the part that I was like pretty happy with myself on was that I analyzed the situation on the previous hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I used the annual data to tell me where to be from the previous year. I knew it was going to be good in that area. And I saw those deer walk down a trail that I never thought they would use. I never thought that would be the route that they were going. But I saw 3 bucks did it. And if I wouldn't have watched like Ted Zangarel from the Hunting Public, his Missouri hunt on the ground, they were in a saddle, saw a bunch of deer do a bunch of things, and we got to get down and get over there. And they went and sat on that trail. And that's where all the deer were. I
Yep.
mean, I could have sat on the ground again and said like, oh, I'm going to get 10 yards within them, but I'm not going to kill them.
Right.
So I was pretty happy with how I analyzed that, got on that trail, and then I stayed persistent on that trail. I was like, they're going to use this trail. And I killed
Smart
them right there.
move.
The best part about it was afterwards, I was like, I wonder if I have any pictures of that deer from the last year. I only ran 1 camera down at that property this year. I had like 6 or 7 last year, but had some stolen, all those 4-wheelers riding around. I only wanted to run 1 camera. And last year, November 9th, it was at night, but it was November 9th, that same deer, the very first intel that I got of him last year, November 9th in the evening. The very first intel I got of him this year, November 9th.
That's so cool.
Killed him the next day. Yeah, it's like one of those things where you hear people talk about it and you're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Like annual data.
Yeah.
And even the reason I was there was not to kill that deer. I just knew that the action picked up. There was a doe that came into heat around then. I didn't expect to see any of those deer that I had on camera the previous year. I just knew, 1, there was a good deer in there, and 2, the action was going to be hot during that time frame. And I just went back and looked at the data, and it's not like I didn't delete pictures of him prior, or I didn't have a bunch of pictures of him in the summer. The very first time, both years that he was on camera was November 9th. 365 days to the day.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's pretty
then
cool.
killed him the next morning.
It's freaking awesome.
It was fun.
So which side of the creek were you on? Did you drag him over the creek?
Yeah.
Yeah. How was that? Was it?
My feet got wet.
Yeah. He didn't have boots here at the office. I texted him. I was like, hey, I killed one. He's like, can I come help you? And I said, yeah. And he was like, is the walk long? And I was like, no, it's not long, but we have to cross water. And it had just rained, so the water was up.
Yeah, it was up a little bit.
But yeah, we had to drag him across. But it was a good thing we did because we had to clean him up, man.
Yeah.
He was so bloody.
Oh yeah, it was devastating.
It was bad. But it was funny. One like final thing about this deer, I set a goal for myself every year in Ohio to kill a 130-inch deer. When I shot him, I was like, I just shot a 130, you know. Come to find out, he's a 7-point. He broke his brow tine off. And I also have a minimum on my shoulder mounts like, if you kill a Pope and young deer, shoulder mount him. He goes in the books. He should go on the wall. So I'm like, okay, if he's 125 inches, I'm gonna shoulder mount him. Lucas and I tape him. It's like 123 and 7/8, and I was like, we got to do it again. I looked up a better video on like how to measure deer, and we tape him. He's like 124 and a half, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I told my taxidermist, I said, hey, you get 125 inches out of this deer, you get an extra shoulder mount. If he comes in under, I'm Euro mounting him. He measures him 124 and 3/4.
Oh my goodness.
If he had the extra brow tine,
Yeah.
or if you could count bone under an inch, he has 1/4 of an inch of a brow tine there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 124 and 3/4 inch 7-point.
That's cool. That's a big 7-pointer though. I mean, you think about,
Yeah.
130-inch 8-pointer is a freaking stud. Like anything bigger than that is like a giant. Like 140-inch 8-pointer is a
Mega.
big deer.
Yeah. Yeah. When I saw him instantly, I was like, that's a big deer.
Yeah.
I shot him like, never hesitated once. I had 4 seconds. You decide you shoot him or you don't.
Yeah, it happens so fast.
And I was like, I'm shooting that. Like, I was pumped, dude. And I was like, oh, I just shot a big one. There was no like, I don't know, should I shoot him?
Sure.
It was like instant, like, I'm shooting that deer. And like, I'm not like 124-inch deer are not safe around me.
So how many? You shot a 145-inch 10-pointer in North Dakota, but how many Ohio? Like how many consecutive years have you filled your Ohio tag now? It's been at least 3 or 4, right?
4 years.
Yeah.
This is the earliest that I've killed one in Ohio. November 19th, November 23rd, November 24th, and now November 10th. So usually, like right around now is when I'm getting into them. But yeah, 4 years. This is my 6th year bow hunting, and I have 6 bucks with a bow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty good.
It's been fun. And I shot one the next day on my birthday in PA, but misjudged him. Thought he was at 40. He was at 50. He's another 120 class buck, but I was like, it's my birthday. I'm going to kill 2 bucks back-to-back days. I'm letting this thing eat. I shot, and I hit under him, so, yeah.
Well, Jase.
Yeah.
What about you, man? You went all the way home. Well, first, I would like to give some context around your situation. So you moved out here on your own, like by yourself, from Indiana. Was it late August?
Yeah, it was right at the end of August.
So right at the end of August, you're like, I'm going to take this opportunity. This is what I want to do. I want to be in the industry. You move out here by yourself. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably thought moving to Ohio from Indiana, there would be better deer hunting in Ohio.
Yeah, I was definitely excited. I mean, I've hunted here for almost my whole life just because I was technically born here. But I've lived in Indiana since I was 4, so that's basically my whole life. But I always come up to Ohio to hunt every year. But yeah, it's like Ohio's got big deer, but you get up to northwestern Ohio, northeastern Ohio.
It's tough, huh?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I've had an okay year here. I did miss a buck the 29th of September. So I was able to get on one early in the year, pretty close to the opening day. But yeah, I shot under him, hit a branch, whatever, it happens. Had a lot of good bucks on camera here. A few encounters, but haven't made it happen here. But yeah, opening gun season came in the 13th, past Saturday in Indiana. And it's a 2-week-long gun season. Rifle, yeah. High-powered rifle, straight wall cartridge, everything's legal there. So it's kind of like the perfect time of the year. So like opening weekend is usually like the best time in Indiana, especially southern part of Indiana. That's when the rut's like in its peak. So I always have high expectations for that weekend, especially this one specific spot that my dad and I and brother have hunted for last 8 to 10 years probably. And it's kind of taken us 8 to 10 years to figure the property out. We do gun hunt a lot, but we do bow hunt a lot as well. I mean, the property really is best during that later first week of November and then the middle of November. So right when gun season starts is when the majority of the time we start to hunt it, just because when that's when deer are there.
Sure.
I mean, it's just like the property is like 250 acres, but there's probably 50, 60 acres of woods. So it's majority cow pasture, open fields. But this 40 acre block of timber is just, I mean, phenomenal piece, and it has been for the last few years. I killed my buck last year there. My brother killed a nice buck there last year. I killed my buck there this year. 3 days later, my dad killed a really nice deer there. It provides for us every year. It's kind of hard to explain the property. It's like 40 acres of just really crappy managed timber. So they came in and basically cut everything good, didn't leave anything else good, but didn't also take anything that was bad. So you just got all these dead, crappy trees everywhere, and then pockets of thick brush everywhere, and it's just little rolling ridges and a 40-acre piece. So there's kind of like 3 spots that you can kind of set up the hunt on, and we've kind of adjusted, like I said, the past 5-10 years of moving stands. This one's too far north. We need to move it back. We're going too far in, and we spook them. You know, it happens a lot. So with the stand I was hunting out of, we had just moved it last February, March, right after season. It was more on the north side of the property, and we noticed that a lot of deer would be traveling and come behind you, and then you wouldn't see them, or you would see them and they were already past you or whatnot. So we decided to move that stand back about 80 yards on this little ridge top, and it's just like this open little couple hundred yards by couple hundred yards area with a few patchy trees here and there, and then it's thick on both sides. And on the north side, they just cruise along. It's basically the property line too, because right on the other property is just thick bedding. So they cruise that ridge top down into that doe bedding. And I think it was like a northwest wind that morning, or that day, that evening. So the opening morning was a little kind of sucked, to be honest. I was like, I had high expectations just because previous years it's always like I'll see multiple bucks chasing, all the time. My dad was a couple hundred yards on the east side, or the west side, I mean. My brother was right in the middle, and I'm on the far west side. I saw one doe first 30 minutes of light, and that was all I saw that morning. My dad saw a couple of does, couple small bucks. Nothing too exciting that morning, so it was a little discouraging. Left, went home, ate lunch, and took a nap. Was supposed to be back out by 1 o'clock. Me being myself, I always oversleep. Woke up and it was like 2:30, and you can hunt till about 5 o'clock. So I was like, well, I need to get out there quick. So I hurry up, get ready, get out there. My brother and I get set up, and my dad's been sitting out there all day because I was supposed to come back and pick him up. But, like I said, I overslept. So he's been sitting out there complaining because he was hungry. And he was out there all day, and I was like, well, you should have planned better and don't rely on me. So I get out there, we get set up. It's like 3 o'clock, a little after 3. I was probably sitting for 30 minutes, and there's, like I said, a northwest wind. And I look down in front of me about 60, 70 yards, and a buck's crossing that flat. And at first I was like, oh, it's just a small 4 or 6 point. And then I look at him, I'm like, oh, no, he's a good deer. And I had to yell at him like 2 or 3 times, and he was just on a move, just wouldn't stop. And using my new 350 Legend, which I really like a lot. So if Ohio, Indiana people, we might want to look into that gun. They're a good round. So he finally stopped, shot him. I could see, it looked like he absorbed the bullet and everything, ran, and I was pumped. I was like, all right, I just shot one. Haven't seen anything today, and finally, I killed one. As at least I thought. Then I waited a little bit, got down. There's no blood at all. And
How far was the shot?
It was like 70 yards probably. I didn't range it, but I think that's probably what it was. It wasn't too far of a shot. Get down, and I remembered where he was standing. It was right past like I said, there's cows in this area, so there's one of those hay rings, and he was right behind that hay ring right when I shot him, or like right behind it and right past it. Found a little bit of white hair, and that was like, oh crap. And I was like, did I just graze his stomach, or what did I do here? Look around, still no blood. I could see some where he ran down, tore up the leaves a little bit. And I'm like, well, I'll just walk ahead. Maybe he's laying down this bottom. Walked 50, 60 yards, and he was piled up in the brush. So I was like, sweet. And I'm over here stressing myself. I was like, I missed. I missed.
So where'd you end up hitting him at? Where was the bullet placed? Where was impact?
It hit way farther back than I wanted, obviously. But I hit stomach, liver, and lung, but he wasn't really quartering, so I'm not sure how I hit all of that.
So it was pretty much a broadside shot.
Yeah, it was completely broadside, but I just clipped like all of that because I remember getting him. It was a mess. So, but yeah, he died quickly. I mean, I only waited like 15, 20 minutes to go look for blood, and he was already
dead.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been dead, so he died instantly. It just, I don't know.
That round must have just
fragmented, probably.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Was there an exit? I don't think there was an exit hole. So he might have just absorbed all that bullet and just the impact probably killed him. Because we've noticed that a lot, because my dad's killed a few deer at the 350 Legend. There isn't a big blood trail with it usually, but they die really quick. We've noticed.
Yeah, that's
a lot of foot-pounds, a lot of energy coming.
Yeah, he shot one 2 years ago, and it dropped like a sack of potatoes and was dead. And he hit it right behind the shoulder.
Nice.
So
I could not imagine hunting November 13th with a rifle.
It's honestly pretty fun.
Oh my God, that would be a blast.
Yeah. When you sent those pictures, I was like, holy crap, Jase just shot a freaking stud. I mean, it's still an awesome deer.
Yeah.
Still an awesome deer. Who took the pictures?
My brother.
He did a good job.
Well, the first ones he set up on a timer.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, the first ones were on a timer.
Yeah, because
then you did a good job.
Yeah.
So yeah, the ones where I'm in the woods, I set that up on a timer because it's cool when you can kill a deer and your dad's always like rushing you to get out, and you don't get to enjoy the moment. So it's like I was by myself, and by the time he got over there, it was dark. So I was like, well, I want to get some pictures before it gets too dark, and so I just set up timer pictures, and then he always wants to get out of there, which I understand. You know, we want to get out of there quick so we can hunt it the next days. But yeah, the following day, I had my brother take some pictures, and yeah, he did a really good job because it doesn't make him look a lot bigger. Because at first I was like, oh, he's definitely over 140, and then I taped him at 134. So he's still really good deer.
Yeah, still good deer. Yeah,
he just didn't have as long as tines. It's only about 7.5 inches was like as long as tine, I think, his G2s.
The angle that you took the picture, they look way longer.
Yeah, it must have been like down and up. Or
yeah.
I was like, damn, Jase just killed 150.
Yeah.
Still an awesome deer. And your dad ended up killing
yeah.
a gnarly looking buck. Was it the next day?
It was Monday. So
okay.
2 days later. It was Monday morning. It was pretty funny too because I didn't hunt that morning. I woke up. It's like a little after 9. And he's texting me, and he's like, this spot sucks. And obviously, he's just being, dumb. Obviously, it's a good spot. He hadn't seen any deer that morning. He's like, what the heck, I'm like, that's weird, It's a good time. Usually, there's cruising through, chasing. They kind of just hold up in that 40 acres when there's a hot doe. 2 minutes later, I'm laying there. He calls me. He's like, hey, just shot a buck. He's like out of breath. I'm like, what? You just said it sucked. And he's like, I know. He just came through. He's like, he's a real funky one too. He's like, his left side or his right side is all weird. And I was like, all right, well, I'll come out there. And I was like, don't send me a picture. I want to see him in person. And it was a surprise. I mean,
he had like a big
potato sack.
Yeah, big
drop time was like a potato, basically the size of like a small potato, and it was hard. And it had like that paddle with just points sticking off of it. And then the main part that came out was actually broke. So there was more to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's why I posted trying to see if anybody had history with this deer. Because, I mean, he'd obviously had some more to it. It was broken off. So I don't know if he had like a matching typical side that matched his normal typical side, or if it was just more junk coming off or what. But
they don't run trail cameras.
Yeah. We don't run trail cameras at this spot. And it's kind of funny because my dad was like, well, maybe that's why we kill deer there. Because we're not overthinking every situation.
Mm-hmm.
And like, should we hunt this time, that time? I'm like, yeah, maybe. But I don't know. I'd like to put some cameras out there because now I just want to see what else comes through there. That's relatively close to where I killed the 190-inch typical back in 2015. So
that's like the thing that I told him when he was like, they don't run trail cameras. I was like, you shot a deer the first day, within like whatever 30 minutes of your evening hunt, and you're not running cameras, you have no idea what could be coming.
Yeah.
Like, you just killed a 190 a couple years ago. Like, if you had trail cameras out there, it could make you like miss opportunities.
Good. Yeah.
Like that deer that if you had a picture of a 180 on camera within like any time in November, would you have shot the deer you shot?
Probably not.
Right.
But I was also only there for 4 days, so I might have.
I don't know. I mean, personally, I probably would have been like, man, there's a 180 running around here.
You had a pretty big one on camera, and you still shot a 124.
Different problem. And I'm not using a rifle.
True.
But it was just funny to me, like, you work for a trail camera company, and you're trying to like figure out. It would just be cool to have a trail camera picture of that funky deer to see like, okay, last year this is what he looked like, or that thing that broke off, he broke it off at this point, and like what it actually looked like.
He was gnarly. He was gnarly looking.
Crazy.
Yeah.
He FaceTimed me, and I was like, his service was really bad, and I was like, oh, that's cool, you know, it's a wicked deer. And like my reaction when I saw the Snapchat video was like, holy crap, that thing is wild looking.
Yeah.
Like
it was cool.
Yeah.
He was all beat up too. He had like the taxidermist pointed out, because like behind this ear, it was just all just gunked up with just infection and stuff. And I'm pretty sure an antler from fighting like went through like right underneath his eye and like out the backside of his ear or something.
Oh.
And there was a small hole there that was just all infected, and he was nasty all around his face. He had like a infection on his mouth, and just fighting, I guess.
Warrior.
Yeah, he was a warrior.
Well, that's cool, man. I was pumped. I was pumped when I got the picture from you on that. I think it was a Saturday. Was it Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Got that on Saturday, and a couple days later, the one with you and your dad both. I was like, oh boy, laying them down.
Hell yeah. Both had the Exodus.
Yeah, you guys both had Exodus swag on.
He's like, I'm gonna go put my shirt on.
That's funny. That's good stuff, man. So what's on the docket for? I know Cameron, you still have a PA buck tag, right?
And Wisconsin.
And Wisconsin. That's right. I forgot about Wisconsin. We'll probably end up going back there in January, I think.
Yeah.
Wisconsin. What about you, Jase?
Still got my Ohio tag. Had a few deer past few days, daylight. So probably can go out this weekend. If I kill soon, might buy a PA tag as well to try to kill one over there. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Well, super cool stories, man. I was, like I said at the beginning of the episode, like, I don't know how November could be much better for us here at the HQ. Lucas is pointing to himself. Yes, it would have been better if Lucas would have. But hey, you still have time. November's not over, so there's still.
Some of the best hunting is yet to come.
Oh, absolutely.
Like this next week.
Yep.
It's gonna be awesome. Weather's looking good. Snow's coming.
Yep.
Like this next week is when I was excited that I still had a tag.
I still have an Ohio tag, but I don't think I'm gonna hunt.
Well,
I gotta get caught up.
You just killed a really big deer too.
Yeah, the fall's been a mess for me.
And
in and out.
I think if I had that hunt that you had, I would not want to come back here and hunt. Like my motivation to sit in the tree stand and.
Well, I thought about it on the way home, on the drive home, and without having a deer to hunt, like I'm just not going to go sit out in the woods because it's November, and then the amount of time it would take me to find a deer that, or find a piece, right now it's just not worth it. I got other stuff I got to do, and our season runs so dang late. Like I still have the late season, so I think that I'm better served getting caught up here at the office and then kind of recalibrating a little bit. And we'll see what happens in January. I'm thinking I'll take the old inline out for a few days, and then we'll see what happens in Wisconsin. But November has been good to us. So any closing parts on your part, and then we'll jump over to Jake.
No.
That's it.
All right, well, let's get over to Jake Hofer.
All right, now we are over to, I don't know if we should call you like Mr. Consistent, Mr. November. What nickname should we dial in for you?
Mr. Work really hard and hunt until I kill a deer. That's probably what it is. It's not. Yeah, I just think it's from. If I had, yeah, I think it's just from the output of work results some level of input.
Dude, every year, man, the first week in November, I mean, this year I guess you're a couple days late, but like, it has your name written all over it.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here in Illinois, after once shotgun season comes here, like pretty much, if I don't have a deer down by the first week of November, the opposite of a countdown starts, where it's like, if you don't kill a big buck with your bow before shotgun season gets here, your odds decrease drastically. You have to have unpressured food, pretty much. Good access. I mean, I have some unpressured food, but the problem is you get about 2 shots, and that's it. And then then the deer are educated. So, so I knocked down a deer November 10th. That's actually, I think, the 3rd buck I've shot on November 10th. That 7-year-old I shot, that was November 10th, and that was a morning hunt. And then I shot another one when I was in college on November 10th in the morning as well.
So is that now your favorite
November
deer woods?
It's getting kind of weird because the bulk of my deer have been killed on November 3rd or November 10th of this race. So maybe I should have hunt those 2 days every year.
Yeah, that's funny. So it's actually a pretty intriguing story of what you did to kind of shift your setup and move around, made some pivots to get that deer killed. So why don't you fill us in on the story?
Yeah, so, well, I guess just to start out, I bought this farm in the end of September. It was my great-grandparents' farm. They sold it in the 70s, and on the Land podcast, I break all this down and was about as transparent as anyone could ask. And so I actually had permission to put in some food plots before I closed on it, and I was like, man, if this doesn't close, they're going to have some really nice food plots. Because we hit the terrible rains. I put probably 1,000 pounds of rye grain on these food plots because I just had to keep it going, and then I just kept going, and it's a lush carpet of rye right now. But anyhow, was bouncing around, and I did not buy this farm for trophy caliber whitetails because I don't think it has the capability of doing that. Like, you look at what people talk about, it needs to butt up to something non-hunted or a lower pressure. This farm does not fit the bill. Now, if you want to shoot a solid buck every year, I do think that this is a great neighborhood for that. So that was my expectations for this farm. And I was bouncing around some farms where there are higher caliber of animals, and this wasn't working. They weren't there. It's November, so you're going to be in a tree. So you got to go where there's deer at. So I hunted this farm a handful of times, and I actually set up on a different spot. And this is it's not a square 40, but it's a 40, including the house and the barnyard. So really, in hunting aspects, it's probably, I would consider it a small parcel. And a lot of it's just fallow weeds right now too. So it's so in terms of not working with a lot of great things here at this moment. But the beauty of it is there's enough rolling terrain to where we're at is where you can manipulate your wind, and there's enough with it being a barnyard. There's a lot of things you can do to manipulate the terrain. So there's a creek that runs through the majority of the property. Hung a set closer to bedding on the downwind side of the main feeding source where the does are feeding consistently. They go there, they release to the big ag, and I'm kind of getting a couple hunts here put together, but there's one where I was in a giant walnut and it was cutting to a creek, and honestly like a 20-foot drop off this where a creek bend is, and I'm dropping thermals and it's like dropping right in the corner. And actually, I don't know, I have terrible eyesight. I'm supposed to wear glasses, supposed to wear contacts, too stubborn to do it. And I dropped my binoculars out of the tree stand earlier that sit, and I was like, well, no binoculars here today. And so I'm watching these does feed in the food plot, and I look over. There's I don't know what buck it is still. He's like 50 yards away. That's how bad my eyes are. And I could tell he was a mature deer. And he was there, and he was like right on the edge of that. And so nothing came to that. I'm not 100% sure if it was that deer or if it was a different one. And then fast forward
So what day was that? Let me interrupt.
That was the 7th.
First hunt.
That was the 7th. Yeah, that was the 7th. And I was like, I had a really crappy hunt that morning. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to go. And that's the beauty of having like out back the door. I was like, well, I'll just throw a hunt back here. It's November 7th, whatever. And that's what happened. And so that was like the first mature buck legitimate sighting. Didn't pan out. Bounced around the 8th. Actually, I might not even hunted the 8th. I might have had a bunch of stuff I had to get done. The 9th in the evening, I went out, set up on a different spot. Wind shifted. to where it was coming out of the east in the evening, and same thing on another creek bend. I had my scent hitting this other creek bank where deer are not going to be. And pretty early, I mean, the density of deer are pretty freaking high, and it's actually kind of annoying. And so it was pretty early. A yearling is out in this food plot, and here comes this buck, similar to where I was set up in the other part, and pulled out the extinguisher because that's what you do. And he was about 200 yards away, and he like beeline, like galloped, and I was like, I'm gonna shoot him. And he was that evening. I mean, he put on an absolute show. He was most vocal ever, just fired up. And he was actually in the neighbors, and I could catch glimpses of him. And he's just like grunting, just like. And mind you, I didn't grunt at him. I actually bleated at him. I was like, he's looking for a doe. He's not looking for a fight.
Right.
And so he was just grunting up and down, like looking for this doe. And I was like, if he's gonna try to get downwind of me, he's dead. Like he can't. And he was sharp enough to not try to get downwind of me. And
Sure.
he cut out in the food plot and fed for a little bit, 60 yards. Didn't want to shoot. And so this is still somewhat early in the evening. And then he was walking away, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to piss this guy off. And I slid it down to grunt, and I'd like as loud and like angry. And he snapped his head around, looked my direction, and just let out like a 20-second grunt, just like head up. And he turned off, and that's off he went. And so no other major sightings that evening. Slipped down. I was like, well, if he doesn't find a doe by tomorrow morning, I guarantee he's gonna be. There's another, I guess, leading into this. There was a like around noon. It was raining, and I've been dying to go in and look at this spot. And I went in there in October, and it was absolutely tore up, giant rubs, and that's where all the does are bedded. I knew it was gonna happen in there. Hung a set. And I was like, if we get an east wind, like this is about as bulletproof as it can get. And so sure enough, it went from it was east that night, and then it shifted in the middle of the night to west, and then went back to east, like a 1 mile per hour east wind. And
so you went in and actually made that. You had a pre-hung set that you did the work in October. Specifically for an east
not
wind.
really much, not much work. I picked a tree, and then I hung a stand because I knew. I mean, it'll be forever an east wind killing spot, like forever. Like, is this one of those setups? So I'll probably end up moving trees. I didn't do any trimming. It was just like, this is what I have to work with right now. So I threw a setup. It was raining that day.
Got it.
So that was, so I hung that in probably around the 23rd or 24th of October. And so I threw a cell camera up. This buck was in there, like I think the 2nd of November or something like that. And so the 9th had that encounter, the 10th, east wind, and then I go in there, and Axis is absolutely bulletproof. Like, it is a textbook perfect stand for an east wind, period. And so it's like probably 10 or 15 minutes after first light, I hear a grunt out in the barnyard, and he keeps getting closer, and I was like, I can't say I guarantee it's him, but I'm gonna bet it's him. And he basically hooked downwind of the bedding area and took the trail exactly what I thought, and just it was like a 15-yard chip shot, smoked him, and that was it. I mean, it was just like, I wish I could romanticize it and say there's this long story. It was like, no, like, this is perfect. This is textbook. This is going to work. When I walked off my front porch, I was like, I'm going to kill that deer this morning. And, it's funny, but it's like, that's always been a dream of mine. And I think anyone that likes land or likes hunting, that is their dream, to shoot a mature buck off their own ground. And to do it at the location that I did, it's really special. It's really cool. And hopefully it's the first of many. But I have realistic expectations. Like, I'd say this is probably like a 130, 140 farm. Like, you'll probably get a 160 every now and then, and but that's okay.
Sure, man. That's it's pretty cool. There's two cool things there for me. One, like you just mentioned, killing it off a piece of ground. It's been in your family for so long that you just purchased, like, and that being the first buck off that farm that you own, I guess. Really, really cool. But then also, like, the strategic aspect of knowing, doing that work and setting that stand specifically for, or I guess going in and scouting the bedding area first, and then knowing, like, okay, if I get an east wind, I'm gonna, this stand location works out, and it worked out to a T. And I think that deer was dead before 8 o'clock.
I was
I mean,
like
it was early.
7:05.
Yes, I mean it was early when we
Yeah.
got that text. I was like, "Geez, oh man!" Like,
Yeah, it happened quick. Yeah, and yeah, I mean it just works out, and I think I'm really curious to see of what improvements we'll make. Like right now, it's pretty raw. I mean, it's old pasture ground. There's I think there's a lot of improvements that can be done. I'm just as excited to do that, and yeah, it's really thankful, and it's really cool. Actually, when the owners that we bought this from actually have a plat map from 1912, and it has my great grandparents' trust name. So he didn't even own it at that point. He was born in 1901. So like that was when his great grandparent or his parents owned it. And so I still haven't gone to the courthouse to see how many generations it was, but it skipped 2 generations, and then somehow, like I couldn't even dream this up. So it's just, I mean, if you weren't, it's like the old like, well, you get lucky, or like people think it's. I was prepared. I was able to do it. I had the balls to do it, and I'm so glad that I did, because I live pretty frugal. Like I try to be as strategic as possible, and it definitely took some guts to move forward on this, because we were just getting settled into our other house.
yeah, man, that's such a. I mean, it's a whirlwind story. Like I remember when you called and
because I just bought a farm a week before that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Like you had just closed another piece, and like the way that worked out. But it's like that is truly a once in a lifetime. I mean, obviously once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yep.
And it's just cool to see. Like you said, being prepared, being disciplined enough to make that happen. It's pretty damn cool. I think it's something like anybody that has interest in land, interest in hunting, being around, their roots, like that's a dream. It's like a dream come true all the way around.
Yeah, for sure. And it was funny though, because we talked about, I was like, if that ever went for sale, like I doubt it will, but if that went for sale, like I would. And then sure enough, like the people that own it called me directly to basically deal with this. So just one of those things, really cool. And the other interesting thing about that old plat map from 1912 is, this was on my mom's side, but for Hofer, there was a lot of Hofers in that plat map. I don't know what the heck happened. But I don't know what happened there, but gosh, there was for the township, I think there was like 4 pretty nice sized tracks that had the last name Hofer, and I was like, someone really screwed the pooch here, because like I'm not even kidding. There's I think 4 different tracks just in this township, and I know there were some in the other township.
And they're non-existent now.
Yeah, 100 years later.
Non-existent to Hofer.
Yeah, 100 years later, Hofer. My 40 Hofer is probably the biggest track with the name in it. So that's a level of pride too. Of wasn't born with a silver spoon. I developed a really hard work ethic. I've had a lot of help along the way, and a lot of people believed in me. But it's not. It's just a lot of hard work. It's what it is.
No doubt. So what's in store for the rest of the season? I know you guys still have a couple tags in that pocket.
I have. I have an Illinois tag here. We just wrapped up our shotgun season. I'm going to Kansas here. Probably going to Kansas. I had the encounter with probably the biggest deer I probably ever will in my life Saturday, and ethical, moral dilemma of, I mean, long and short of it is, this deer, it's really cool to see. This is a tiny parcel of ground, tiny, and got pictures of this deer last year, showed up. I know where his home range is. It's very far away, multiple miles away, and he didn't show up, and didn't show up in that window. He just didn't show up during the window he did last year, but he showed up literally Saturday on a cell camera during the Illinois shotgun season. Re-strategized and had him at 150 yards away on property I couldn't shoot. Didn't have permission, and I think maybe some listening is like, well, you probably didn't feel confident in your shot, or this, that, the other. No, the gun's capable of that. The deer was relaxed. I had plenty of time to make a conscious decision, and anyone says that they wouldn't shoot a 200-inch deer if it was on the neighbors, I can wholeheartedly say that. And I'm not saying it was an easy decision, or I feel like I made the right decision, to be completely honest, but I want to do it the right way. So story's not over.
I mean, you have the cell phone video to prove it. It wasn't like a 5-second clip.
No.
I think you sent me a 30-second video from your phone. I mean, I don't know how long that whole encounter was, but
it's about 7 minutes. That felt like an hour. And
yeah, I can only imagine seeing something like that on a hoof. Like that's just incredible, man. I mean, I can only imagine the emotions and frustration. I mean, everything that was going through your mind at that point in time with that deer, 100, 150 yards away from you with a
slug gun.
Slug gun in your hand. It's like,
a single shot, heavy barreled slug gun that's sighted in 100, holds 6 inches high for 150. Dead deer.
Yeah.
But doing the big buck profiles, about every one of them has some sort of controversy or like some sort of legend of like, well, even the Hansen buck. There's people that talk mad crap about him for doing deer drives and whatever that full story is. That I feel like there's a level of it's tainted to some level in the world, not in the world of Boone and Crockett, not in the world of deer history, but for bar conversation, it's tainted. You look at a lot of these other deer, there's a level of controversy. And this was in my head, too. It's like, I don't want any level of controversy. I want everyone to say, when they say Jake Hofer, a guy that does it right and is honest. And so that's really what it boiled down to. You have one reputation. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, true words have never been spoke. I mean, there's no argument there, man.
So, realistically, I would say my odds of killing him now are almost probably under 1%. Like, honestly. He was here for 4 days last year. We're sitting on day 3 now, if he's still there. He was on a doe, so the doe's probably already done, and he's already on to the next one, wherever the heck that is. Yeah. When this deer dies, we can do a full story on this thing, because the saga of this deer is insane. Unlike what I've learned
incredible.
Here, what I've learned, and for what he is, and like locally, oblivious. Like it doesn't make.
That still boggles my mind.
I don't know. Yeah, me too. When
the day comes, it'll be exciting to go back through and document,
chronicle,
put that piece of content together, because it's an incredible story.
Yep, deer travel. We'll dive into that another day, but hopefully it all works out, and whoever kills him does it the right way, because he was dead to rights if you were less than questionable with your ethics.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get this thing wrapped up. I think we're probably going on an hour now between the three harvest stories. All I can say is, again, November treated us very, very well. Hopefully we keep the ball rolling. I know that you still have 2 tags, the Kansas tag, the other Illinois tag in your pocket. I still have an Ohio tag.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron and I both still have Wisconsin tags from
nice.
that deal we did with Dan and the Beast crew back in September.
Is that a statewide general?
It is not. Well, yes. It is a statewide general, but we also have the permit for Fort McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
So there was supposed to be plans of going back for a few days to hunt the fort. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We'll just kind of see what's going on here at the office, whether we decide to make that trek again. Not really sure, but yeah. So that could be a fort tag or just statewide. So we'll see. But we're not done yet. It's been exciting. We have to kind of, I know for myself, just recalibrate a little bit, get some freaking work done.
I feel like a lazy.
I feel like a bum. I know.
Yeah. I feel like give me my unemployment check.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? That's what we've been working for the last 5 years. So you know what I mean. So it's like not lose sight of what we do and what we've worked towards. We've paid our dues kind of up front. I think everyone here deserves what the time that they've had off, the freedom to go do what we all love to do, and then ultimately the success that we found. So
only get so many Novembers.
That's it, man. That's it. And me being the old man of the group, like there's not a whole. You start thinking about it, there's not many left, man.
It gets depressing. I'm like.
It does.
Yeah, I was just thinking yesterday. It's like, okay, so that's all right. That's the biggest deer I'll ever have under 150 yards in my life. I'm 27, and well, that's cool. All right, now what? But yeah, anyhow.
Well, you never know. You're a shaker and mover.
Yeah, not to like pound my own chest, but I was going through back at like my mental archives of deer that I legitimately known and legitimately had been hunting the last really 4 years. If you had that running average, I think 189 is the smallest. I haven't killed them, but I mean that's what it is. And I know they're all different counties, all different parcels, all different stories, all different everything. So
no, man, big deer are a rare thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about it all the time, Northeast Ohio, yada, yada, yada. But it doesn't matter if you're in Northeast Ohio, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas. Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, when you start looking at deer, I'm going to say north of, I'm going to say 170 inches. Like, they're not easy to find.
No. This was the deepest part of the year. Saturday, that was the first deer over 180 for sure out of the entire year. And that's running a ton of cameras and some really good locations. Not like running a lot of cameras in a lot of good places, but they're out there. More cameras you have, the more you're going to find, I guarantee it.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. No denying that. Well, let's get this thing wrapped up. Let all the good folks go for the day. Again, we appreciate all the support, all the downloads, all the listens, and the reviews. We've been beating this, not beating it to death, but we've mentioned it on every podcast here in the month of November about these review giveaways. You leave us a review. We go in every week. We pick a winner and get you guys that winner. I guess not you guys, but get that winner a SD card desktop holder. And this episode's no different. I think we have one more in November. So if you haven't already, go leave us a review, and then we'll dig back through all the reviews left in November and pick that final winner. For the guys that have won, just shoot us a message on Instagram. I think we've picked two winners prior to this episode, and neither one has sent us a message. So get that info into us so we can get that stuff out. Anyways, we appreciate you guys. Good luck to everyone out there with a tag still in your pocket. Don't give up. Just keep working. Carry good attitude. Good things will happen. You just got to keep going at them. So until next time.